Trajan Wealth and learn about all of your options, including a way to earn an upfront bonus of up to 25% for your future income just for rolling it over. That's right, you could earn up to a 25% bonus for your retirement income just for rolling that 401k over with Trajan Wealth. Don't roll that 401k into your new company plan. Don't do it without calling Trajan Wealth first. Call 801-899-7600 or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
if these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist. Ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
The longest-serving woman in the United States Senate, Dianne Feinstein, passed away at the age of 90. She was a pillar of public service for decades, serving in the United States Senate for more than 30 years, a true pioneer for women in politics and women in the United States Senate in particular. Really pleased to have joining us on the line today Utah Senior Senator Mike Lee, who has a unique friendship and connection with the late senator. And Senator Lee, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Boyd. It's good to be with you as always.
You know, I know there were a lot of political issues that you and Senator Feinstein disagreed on, but you and Senator Feinstein had such a unique relationship. I remember often looking around on the Senate floor to see where you were, and often you would be off in a corner huddling, chatting about something with Senator Feinstein. Tell us about that unique connection.
Well, look, from the moment I set foot in the Senate and started serving on the Judiciary Committee with her, I perceived correctly that Dianne Feinstein was an institution in the Senate. She was truly a senator's senator. Even though we belonged to different political parties and frequently disagreed, as you noted, I always admired her opinions because they were always born of hard work and research. It's one of the first things I saw in her in our Judiciary Committee hearings. She was always extremely well prepared. Everything she said was well considered. She was one who embraced robust conversation and dialogue and shunned the supercilious. She, in every instance, reflected the best ideals of the Senate, and I will miss her. There were a number of issues that we worked on together, and I found that when I could agree with her on a piece of legislation, she was a great ally to have in fighting for criminal justice reform, civil liberties, or any other issue. She was great to have in my corner. But even when she wasn't, I loved listening to her reasoning as to why she disagreed. She taught me to disagree better.
I think you and Senator Feinstein share two qualities that I always love to watch play out. And whether it was in a judiciary hearing or on the floor of the Senate, you both always had that curiosity of saying, okay, I might disagree with this person, so I wonder why she thinks that way. And Senator Feinstein was notorious, I think, especially in committee hearings. She was never the performative kind. So she would ask a great question, and then she always had a great follow-up question rather than just some of the performative stuff that we see in a lot of hearings these days.
Yeah, that's right. No, she was really good at that, and because she was good at it, it made other people around her, including me, want to be better. I remember one time over lunch, she was addressing the group and talking about the history and the tradition of the Senate, and she expressed something that has stuck with me for many years and always will. She said, in all of our deliberations, and as we consider procedural routes to accomplish what we want to accomplish, we have to be very careful not to break the Senate. I thought that was such an eloquent way of stating her point. That is that if you take undue advantage of certain procedural options, you can cause tears in the fabric that have made the Senate a place where deliberative process can take place. We've seen that stretched and at times almost to its breaking point. Dianne Feinstein was one who helped keep us back from that, and it's one of many reasons why I will really miss having her here.
You mentioned some of the things that you and Senator Feinstein worked on together, especially around civil liberties, some of the FISA laws. Give us some perspective in terms of those conversations. She was coming at it from a very different view than a lot of her Democratic colleagues, and she passed that test of not just shouting talking points at those who are against you, but she did have that courage to tell her friends on her side of the aisle when they were wrong as well.
No, that's right. One of those civil liberties moments came when Congress a decade or so ago adopted as part of the Defense Authorization Act some language that purported to weaken the due process rights of American citizens in times of war, suggesting that some of their due process rights could be curtailed under this particular provision. It was ambiguous, but it was when it was read according to its terms and taken to its logical conclusion, it could do great violence to a lot of our due process rights. So she and I came together and ran various iterations of a bill called the Due Process Guarantee Act. And we both had people in our respective caucuses, Republicans and Democrats on her side, who disagreed with us strongly. But she stood up for what we were fighting for there, and I always appreciated that.
Great perspective and great insight, a unique relationship, and I know the not only the IQ points, but the commitment to do the right thing, to avoid breaking the Senate, as you pointed out, Senator Lee, is always something that you and Senator Feinstein worked together on to make sure that happened. Thanks so much on a very busy day for taking some time for some reflections on the late Senator Dianne Feinstein, passed away at the age of 90. Senator Lee, thanks so much for taking some time for us today.
Thank you, Boyd.
All right, again, that's Utah Senior Senator Mike Lee, and he and Senator Feinstein did have a very unique relationship. Watching the two of them work together in the committee of the judiciary was always an extraordinary thing to watch, because they both wanted to get to the truth, they wanted to get to the principle, and they wanted to look for a path forward. And those conversations are things that you never really see on the evening news. You never really see them on the cable networks, because it's not high drama. It's not shouting matches back and forth. It's very reasoned questions, very curious questions as to why do you think that is the best way to deal with this. And because of that, Senator Lee and Senator Feinstein had a very unique connection. As I mentioned before, it was always interesting on the floor of the United States Senate. For the most part, when you look at the floor of the United States Senate, most of the Democrats are over on one side of the floor, and most of the Republicans are over chatting on the other. But I can't tell you how many times I saw Senator Feinstein walking across the floor of the Senate to chat with Senator Lee, or watch Senator Lee walk over to the other side of the aisle to have a conversation with Senator Feinstein, because they respected each other. They respected one another's integrity and their desire to do the right thing when it comes to particular pieces of legislation, things that would help preserve the country and the Senate. I think Senator Feinstein especially had an extraordinary depth and belief in the institution of the Senate. And I think she shuddered and had a lot of chagrin over some of the antics in the Senate that have taken it almost to that breaking point. much more political theater than real reasoned debate, real rigorous look at the facts and the process and the Constitution. So that was always a very fascinating thing to watch. Appreciated Senator Lee jumping on with us today on a busy day for his reflections on their unique connection between Senator Lee and Senator Dianne Feinstein. Again, truly an institution, as Senator Lee put it, part of that Senate. I want to close out this reflection on Senator Feinstein with some of her own words. She made many extraordinary contributions to the United States Senate. One of those had to deal with a portion of our history that is not stellar, a portion where we did not live up to the principles we profess to believe. The Senate was to expose the CIA's methods of torture during interrogations in the War on Terror. And this goes back to this idea that it's one thing to go along to get along. It's another to just shout at those you disagree with. It takes a whole nother level of courage to say, hey, we made a mistake and we're better than that. Take a listen.
The CIA's actions a decade ago are a stain on our value and on our history. The release of this 500-page summary cannot remove that stain, but it can and does say to our people and the world that America is big enough to admit when it's wrong and confident enough to learn from its mistakes.
Big enough to admit our mistakes as a country and confident enough that we can make the improvement, make the change, and actually move forward. Those are great words from the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. Again, a unique connection here to the state of Utah, really an institution in the United States Senate. She will be missed as a force in there, especially in the Judiciary Committee, and we wish her family nothing but the best as they mourn and hopefully as they celebrate and reflect on an extraordinary woman, an extraordinary career, someone who actually did make a difference for our country. We'll step aside for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next. Stick around.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. President Joe Biden plans to be at the White House in Washington all through the weekend. We're hoping to hear about a resolution in the House of Representatives that would keep the government funded. At the very least, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says he'll try to keep everybody updated.
You be assured that the American people and you all are going to hear from him on a regular basis in the next upcoming days because he's going to continue to work for the American people.
Earlier today, hard-right Republicans blocked another of House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's attempts to keep the federal government open temporarily. The IRS is one of Weber County's largest employers, and a government shutdown would affect thousands of workers there. The local chapter president of the National Treasury Employees Union, Robert Lawrence, says the employees there are nervous.
They are very anxious right now. They have a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear.
Lawrence says many of the employees at the service center are recent hires who are earning a relatively low hourly rate. He worries they won't have savings built up to weather an extended shutdown. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is out with a timeline for its new hymn book. It'll come out by the end of 2026, and it'll be translated into 4 languages soon thereafter. It was initially announced in June of 2018. The hymnal will have between 400 and 500 songs from both the current hymn book and the children's songbook. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, 167 points. The NASDAQ, though, has been above the starting point all day long, right now up about 21 points. And our KSL weather, it's going to cool off, the wind's going to pick up, then we get rain. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
The country's largest used RV show is back and better than ever. Come find the biggest used RV selection in years, October 5th through the 7th at the Shops at Southtown. We're bringing in a massive range of used RVs from 6 locations in 3 states for this event. Shop used travel trailers, fifth wheels, motorhomes, toy haulers, and more all on site. Plus, find even more used models online at countriesrvshow.com. You'll find used RV pricing starting as low as $10,000. Along with a huge selection of used RVs, find new RVs straight from the factory already discounted for fall. Plus, all remaining 2023s are at fall show pricing. Strike the best RV deal of the season with no payments until 2024 on approved credit. Not to mention huge trade-in offers on your current RV. And check out our Hunter's Corner just in time to kick off your hunting season. We'll also have consignment RVs at private sale prices backed by dealer support. Don't miss your best chance to extend your fall camping season during the country's largest used RV show. 3 days only, October 5th through the 7th at the Shops at Southtown. Open daily at 10 a.m. with free admission. Sponsored by Bish's RV.
The Angie's List you know and trust is now Angie, and we're so much more than just a list. We still connect you with top local pros and show you ratings and reviews, but now we also let you compare upfront prices on hundreds of projects and book a service instantly. We can even handle the rest of your project from start to finish. So remember, Angie's List is now Angie, and we're here to get your job done right. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you're always looking for ways to position your operation to create opportunities and move on them faster. With Bank of America, you get access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
A little bit of slowing continues southbound I-15 in Weber County between Riverdale Road down to 5600 South and Roy, and a crash at 2300 East just south of 3100 South. How do you know if you're getting the best deal on employee benefits? Well, you don't, unless you get free quotes from every insurance company every year. Visit shopmyplan.com to get free quotes. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, sunny and warm through the rest of today, but then we have a low pressure system bringing clouds and south winds into Utah tomorrow. We'll see rain on Sunday. Today's high 81, tomorrow 82, but only 65 on Sunday. Sunny and 74 degrees right now. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. Inside Sources, an inside look at 2024 presidential politics.
Well, it must be Friday. Welcome back to Inside Sources, because every Friday we covered the inside look on Inside Sources of presidential politics, all leading up to the very big presidential election next year. We always say, as we try to analyze the candidates, their behavior, their statements, debates, speeches, trying to understand the behavior of someone running for the office of president is sometimes like trying to smell the color 7. And I have to admit that this week in particular was really a try to smell the color 7 kind of week when it comes to looking at these candidates running for office. In the Republican debate that was held at the Ronald Reagan Library in Simi Valley, California this week, I was perplexed, befuddled, could not believe the candidates clearly had the consulting class in their ears. So many were just acting exactly as scripted by the political consulting class. You had Ron DeSantis, who has been criticized pretty heavily for his inability to be warm and natural and nice. He had some very awkward smiles at the end of some pretty fiery statements. He used a nice prop of a pen, right on cue, right on schedule. You had Senator Tim Scott, who many had criticized that, hey, you can't just play nice. You can't just be the happy warrior. You got to lean in. And so lean in he did. Lean in to the point that he was well out over his skis. And it didn't play well. It didn't feel authentic to me because it's just not his space. But that's what the consulting class was telling him to do. And so that behavior kind of perplexed me a little bit, that we're playing so much to what we think a debate should be when that's really not the job. We're not hiring or electing a debater in chief, but we do need someone who can communicate a message. And very little of that happened at the Republican debate this week. Most of it was just crosstalk, a lot of chatter, a lot of pejoratives thrown back and forth at each other, a lot of distraction. So to me, it was a lot of consultants winning the game and getting in the ear of those running for president. And I just don't think that bodes well in terms of the dialogue, nor does it help the American people discern and differentiate who they actually want to vote for. Who would you actually feel comfortable and confident with sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office on the night of a really critical decision being made? It's not going to be based on who is a good debater, but who gives you the confidence that they have the principles, the values, the character traits to stand up to the job, especially when it's hard. So that's always the test. And I think it was an epic fail in doing the right thing to connect with the American people. There wasn't a single person who tuned in on Wednesday night to watch the Republicans debate who did not know that all the Republicans were against the policies of the current President Joe Biden. There was not a single person who tuned in to watch that debate who didn't know that the 7 candidates on that stage are against the frontrunner, the former President Donald Trump. And yet, out of the 2 hours, I would say 1 hour and 57 minutes of it were spent talking about everything but the thing that actually needs to be done. That's trying to smell the color 7. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. We have to figure out a way to do this different and have a different kind of conversation. Now, speaking of the current and former occupant of the Oval Office, they both were busy this week as well. So let's start with the current president. Yesterday, President Biden gave a speech in Arizona to honor the legacy of the late Republican Senator John McCain. During the speech, he spoke extensively on the power and the fragility of American democracy, and, of course, took a good chunk of his time to condemn what he deems as the MAGA movement.
And there's something dangerous happening in America now. There's an extremist movement that does not share the basic beliefs in our democracy, the MAGA movement. Their extreme agenda, if carried out, would fundamentally alter the institutions of American democracy as we know it. My friends, they're not hiding their attacks. They're openly promoting them, attacking the free press as the enemy of the people, attacking the rule of law as an impediment, fomenting voter suppression and election subversion. Extremists in Congress more determined to shut down the government, to burn the place down, than to let the people's business be done.
So that was the president. Again, the speech was a little bit meandering, not exceptionally inspiring, and I'll tell you why. I actually agreed with a lot of what the president said yesterday down at the McCain Institute there in Arizona. A lot of it was right on in terms of what we need to do to preserve and protect democracy. It is powerful and it is fragile. But I think the president got off and didn't feel authentic when he would go down his MAGA movement mantra. And it's MAGAnomics to offset his Bidenomics. And it's radical MAGA Republicans in the House or the Senate. And it's the pejorative stuff. And it's not President Biden at his best. Again, whether you agree with his politics or not, that's not the issue. The principle. And the principle is that that's not where President Biden is most comfortable. If he would have stuck to the real script in terms of the principles, if he was really honoring the legacy of the late Senator John McCain, he would have stuck to the principles. And I think that would have been better for the president, both politically, and I think it would have been better conversation for the country. Now, President Biden also gave charge to all Americans to counter the threat to democracy, not staying silent, becoming more engaged, and building community.
Democracies don't have to die at the end of a rifle. They can die when people are silent, when people are willing to give away that which is most precious to them because they feel frustrated, disillusioned, tired, alienated. Our task, our sacred task of our time, is to make sure that they change, not for the worse, but for the better, that Democracy survives and thrives, not be smashed by a movement more interested in power than in principle. So the answer to the threats we face is engagement. It's not to sit in the sidelines. It's to build coalitions and community.
That's a much better version, I think, of President Joe Biden, and that's where I think he got to it. It's about community. It's about engaging. It's about building coalitions. It's about getting to the principles, not just the power of politics. And I love this idea that democracy doesn't die by violence. It often dies with silence and not willing to engage and get off those sidelines. Now, for his part, the former president also was on the trail this week. He gave a message of economic nationalism. It was to a non-union auto plant in Michigan, of course, in the middle of the United Auto Workers strike. He went to Michigan, chose not to go to the debate, and he went at the Chinese government and promised to rebuild America's industrial base.
We're going to rebuild the industrial bedrock of this country like it used to be. By the time this battle is over, the rusted out factories will not be here in Michigan. They'll be in Beijing, Shanghai, and other parts of the world. Taking it back. We're taking it back. The gleaming new buildings and roaring production lines will be built in Lansing and Flint and Sterling Heights and Grand Rapids and Pontiac.
As that was former president, again, in Michigan on Wednesday night, rather than being on the debate stage, again, talking about kind of that economic nationalism, talking about building things in the United States as opposed to in China. Again, populist economic nationalism, that's going to continue to be the mantra, I think, for the former president as he tries to really coalesce that base that he has as he continues to march his way through the Republican primary. Now, on the debate stage, there were a couple of good moments in some unexpected places. And we always like to highlight those because we believe let's reward good behavior. Let's not reward bad behavior. So I thought one of the most compelling moments of the night was when former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie took a question about being pro-life. And he talked about it in a different way, different framing in terms of expanding the reach, focusing on every aspect of life. Take a listen.
What you need is a leader who can talk to people and make them understand that if you're pro-life, you have to be pro-life for the entire life, not just the 9 months in the womb. And we talked a lot about fentanyl tonight, and we haven't spoken one moment about treatment. And we need to be providing treatment to cure this as a disease that it is. We start talking like that, they're going to do what I did in the blue state, which was get reelected with 61% of the vote and won 70% of independents and 51% of Latinos because I told them the truth from my heart.
So I thought that was an important moment. He talked about being pro-life. You have to be pro all of life, from yet to be born to soon to depart and everyone in between, and the value of life and that identity. And whether it's someone dealing with addiction, someone who is dealing with the fentanyl crisis, mental health crisis, the aging population, we have to look at it in a different way. And I thought Governor Christie on that point got it right. And hopefully that changes the conversation, broadens it out. I want to sneak in one last moment from the presidential trail, and that was also on the debate stage. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum has not been getting a lot of attention or a lot of traction. He does have a lot of common sense solutions, and he's actually governing a state in North Dakota that's doing some things pretty doggone well. And so there was a moment where he did get to speak. He had to really elbow his way in to make the point as they were talking about energy in the country. And he finally said to the moderators, I'm actually in a state that's doing this right. Maybe you ought to take a listen.
The energy plans that have all been announced in the last month by these other folks on stage, we're already doing it in North Dakota. The border plans they're already talking about, we've got troops down at the border flying helicopter missions from North Dakota, from San Diego to the Gulf Coast. And on the energy policy, we're already doing it. It's not saying when nobody else done the big fights, North Dakota was leading the charge to say that nobody's fighting the big fights. Just look at the record of what we're doing right now. Energy, economy, national security have been talking about it since day one. And now finally, good, we're having the conversation about it. But we've got the answer in North Dakota.
So another lovely thing, imagine that. Practical, tactical, not just theory, not just bumper sticker slogans. Here's the policy, and not just a policy idea. Here's a policy that has been implemented and delivered results. I know that's very radical stuff when it comes to presidential politics, but we like to think of it in radical terms. And that's the kind of conversation we should be having on all the issues of our day when it comes to selecting who will be the candidates for both sides of the aisle, and maybe even an independent when it comes to 2024. Well, that wraps up our weekly look at the Inside Sources Inside Look at presidential politics. We'll step aside for a quick break. More Inside Sources coming up next.
This weekend, take a needed break, relax and refresh with the 193rd Semi-Annual General Conference of The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. KSL's coverage begins Saturday morning at 9:30 with live sessions all weekend. We have you covered at 102.7 FM or on the app for KSL News Radio.
The Management Minute is a service of the MBA program in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University. I'm Professor Scott Hammond. A humiliating layoff. My former student then faced 5 months of unemployment. Every day he worked to find a job, and every day he was rejected. Then a listing for the perfect job. Now, he'd been rejected for that job previously, but he knew somebody who'd worked for the company, so he called the person who laid him off and asked for help. Within hours, once the company had 800 applicants, the posting was closed. My student received another rejection. Then the phone rang. He was offered an interview. After 3 interviews, he was offered the job. I'm proud of him. He swallowed his pride. He asked for help. He knew that hiring is about personal connection, not just computer algorithms. Learn more about managing your career in an MBA from Utah State University. Go to utahstatemba.com. That's utahstatemba.com. I'm Scott Hammond. Hope to see you in one of our classes.
As I look at my path to the NFL, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. Having a supporting cast for me made all the difference, both on and off the field. And the thing I realized this last year was having that supporting cast made my dreams and my goals a reality. I prepare as best as I can for every situation on the football field. You know, that same mindset applies to me as a husband, as a dad. And being a new father with an 8-month-old child, I've realized that, you know, I now have a responsibility to my son and to my wife, just like I do my teammates. I spend all my time being a quarterback, and I need to find people that I can trust and rely upon. Deseret First Credit Union, they are those people that are spending all that time to help me manage and take care of my family. My name is Taysom Hill, and my why is faith, family, and football.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. But right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, President Biden will be in Washington through the weekend, hoping to help Congress avoid a shutdown of the federal government when its spending authority expires on Saturday night. Second, thousands of federal employees who work at the Internal Revenue Service Center in Ogden are worried about what will happen to their paychecks if there's a government shutdown. Third, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says it's making progress on a new hymn book with plans to release the finished product in 2026. Right now, 74 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Last week, during Ukrainian President Zelensky's visit to Washington, D.C., he presented orders of merit to citizens doing the hard work and heavy lifting to support Ukraine's fight for freedom and their fight against Russian aggression, and helping those that help the well-being of the Ukrainian citizens, making a difference there. One of those honorees is our guest today. Jonathan Friedman is the president and CEO of World Trade Center Utah. And Jonathan, welcome back to the show. And what an extraordinary moment to have President Zelensky there in our nation's capital. Give us just a little bit of the backdrop there and this extraordinary acknowledgement from the president of Ukraine.
Thank you for having me, Boyd. It's great to be here again. Yes, I received a phone call on Sunday. This is a week ago Sunday, that the President Zelensky had requested that I be with him in Washington, D.C. that following Thursday, and then he had a surprise for me at the conclusion of his remarks. He spoke to 350 people in the National Archives, mostly federal legislators, and so I made my way to D.C. and as you said, was awarded the Order of Merit with a group of individuals that were there as well.
Such an extraordinary thing and such an extraordinary setting there in our nation's capital. And, of course, a lot of us recognize you as the president and CEO of World Trade Center Utah. Some people don't know that you're also the honorary consul of Ukraine in Utah, a position you've had since 2008. So tell us just a little bit about that role in supporting some of Utah's Ukrainian community members.
Sure. It's been a pleasure that I've experienced the last 15 years to help the Ukrainian community here in Utah. So I work for the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry here in the States. So I run the consulate office, and my job basically entails supporting our community, growing economic ties between Ukraine and Utah, fostering cultural exchanges between the two states, and hosting dignitaries that come to our state, showcasing the very best of Utah to visiting Ukrainians.
I love that. And there's so many extraordinary ties between Utah and Ukraine, everything that's going on from a business standpoint. I know your organization recently received a grant to help Utah businesses expand globally. Tell us a little bit more about that and what that could mean for some of those companies here in the state of Utah, as well as our friends in Ukraine.
That's right. So World Trade Center Utah is a nonprofit organization with the mission of accelerating, the global growth of Utah businesses. So we help businesses import and export and attract foreign investment, and we lead governor-led trade missions. We're going to Mexico with Governor Cox next month, and we bring businesses along with us. We send businesses to international trade shows, and as you mentioned, we were just awarded $500,000 by the SBA STEP grant program to administer those. We're the nominated entity in the state to administer these STEP grants. And so we work with businesses, small, medium, sometimes large businesses, to help them overcome these barriers to entering new markets all around the world. Anyone that's interested in applying for a STEP grant can find more information on our website, which is WTCUtah.com.
So important, and so many extraordinary opportunities there for Utah. We know that connection continues. We know there was an extraordinary visit to Ukraine earlier this year, again, deepening those ties, creating space. We always say it's the entrepreneurs and small business owners that really drive freedom around the world. There were some amazing messages at this presentation before you received that Order of Merit. I loved that President Zelensky quoted Abraham Lincoln and kind of that bulldog grit that you just got to grab on and not let go. But I was especially moved by the First Lady of Ukraine, as she called that fight for freedom a spiritual battle that was really shared by all. Give us some sense, because you have been interacting and representing Ukraine and the Ukrainian people long before the war broke out. And so give us some sense in terms of that spiritual battle and what it is that unites all of us in what's happening in Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely. The President and First Lady of Ukraine both spoke eloquently, were so gracious. They thanked everyone here in the United States for their assistance, the continued assistance, which has helped them last more than a few days from the initial invasion by Russia. It's our help and the international community's help that has allowed them to fight with all their might. And as you say, it is a spiritual cause, as she said. It's a righteous cause. They're fighting for their freedom, for their land, for their families, for their lives. And we believe in all these rights that people should have around the world. We believe in a democratic society and a free society. And we are giving sizable amount of money to Ukraine here in the United States, but it actually represents 5% of our defense budget. That money is being spent here in the United States only. It's being spent with defense contractors that are producing new weapons and equipment that replaces the older equipment and weapons that we're donating to the country. It also weakens Russia and keeps China, that's watching this very closely, at bay as they potentially make a play for Taiwan in the future.
Yeah, great perspective.
So it's really within our national interest to keep the support up for Ukraine.
So important. And again, Jonathan Friedman's president and CEO of World Trade Center Utah. An extraordinary moment last week as he received that Order of Merit from President Zelensky, which speaks volumes in terms of your influence and impact. And Jonathan, we appreciate you joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Boyd. I just want to say that award is honored. I am so honored to have received it, but I share that with countless Utahns that have really stepped up, individuals and organizations that are making a true impact in Ukraine right now.
Fantastic. Jonathan Friedman from World Trade Center, Utah. That's going to round out hour number 1 of Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, of course, we've covered a lot over the last few days about Silicon Slopes. Our next guest is Elder David A. Bednar, an apostle in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who took to the stage at Silicon Slopes for a fascinating conversation. You don't want to miss that. It's coming up next, right after top of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up on KSL News Radio.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen at home on any smart speaker and in your car at 102.7 FM. This is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says it will begin releasing selections from its new hymn book next year. Final product, with as many as 500 hymns for congregations and for children, will come out in 2026. It'll then be translated into 4 languages, while additional translations will be made available soon thereafter. The church began the hymn book project in 2018, soliciting new sacred songs from members and also including selections from hymnals of other traditions. The U.S. Forest Service has decided not to start a prescribed burn today in Parley's and Lambs Canyons. Spokesperson Sierra Hellstrom says just too windy today, but it's important to take care of piles of trees and brush that have already been cut down by work crews.
So we have very small windows in which we're able to complete some of these projects. So the excessive fuels in the area do create a potential for a catastrophic fire.
Hellstrom says they may try again tomorrow. After that, the Forest Service would have to determine if it's an essential project because of the government shutdown. And our top national story this hour from ABC News, former Senator Barbara Boxer remembering her friend, former colleague, and history-making Senator Dianne Feinstein. Boxer and Feinstein became the first 2 women elected to the U.S. Senate from California in 1992.
Even though we had some different approaches, I was more liberal, she was more centrist, that never got in the way. We always knew we could, if we had differences, they wouldn't be personal. They never got personal.
Senator Feinstein passed away overnight. She was 90. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day, 158 points as we approach the close of trading. The NASDAQ is still up on the day, about 18 points. And on the way, the sunny skies we've had will give way to wind and rain for the weekend. That's next. KSL News Time 2:02.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Embrace the majesty of the great outdoors and celebrate Bryce Canyon National Park's 100th birthday at Ruby's Inn. Skip the long lines and expensive hotel rooms and escape to the American West. Ride, hike, bike, and play among the towering hoodoos right in Ruby's backyard. Embrace your inner cowboy and take a guided horseback tour across the rim of Bryce Canyon. And no trip to Ruby's Inn is complete without dinner and a show at Ebenezer's Barn and Grill. After a long day of adventure, spend your nights in a cozy hotel room or camp out in a rustic campground. With affordable and varied lodging options, any family will feel right at home at Ruby's Inn. For some extra savings, be sure to take advantage of the hot deals running throughout the year. This year, treat your family to the adventure of a lifetime. Book your trip today at ruby'sinn.com. That's ruby'sinn.com.
The country's largest used RV show is back and better than ever. Come find the biggest used RV selection in years, October 5th through the 7th at the Shops at Southtown. We're bringing in a massive range of used RVs from 6 locations in 3 states for this event. Shop used travel trailers, fifth wheels, motorhomes, toy haulers, and more all on site. Plus, find even more used models online at countriesrvshow.com. You'll find used RV pricing starting as low as $10,000. Along with a huge selection of used RVs, find new RVs straight from the factory already discounted for fall. Plus, all remaining 2023s are at fall show pricing. Strike the best RV deal of the season with no payments until 2024 on approved credit. Not to mention huge trade-in offers on your current RV. And check out our Hunter's Corner just in time to kick off your hunting season. We'll also have consignment RVs at private sale prices backed by dealer support. Don't miss your best chance to extend your fall camping season during the country's largest used RV show. 3 days only, October 5th through the 7th at the Shops at Southtown. Open daily at 10 a.m. with free admission. Sponsored by Bish's RV.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meeks.
For those who are traveling northbound on I-15 in Draper, we do have an accident approaching Bangerter Highway. Those vehicles are out of traffic over to the left, and it looks like we have a couple of vehicles on the shoulder. Not sure if it's an accident. This is southbound I-15 near Riverdale Road. They're out of traffic, but we still have lingering delays from Riverdale Road to 5600 South Roy. Looking for family seasonal fun? Visit This Is the Place Heritage Park's Little Haunts. Tricks, treats, crafts, witches, ponies, pumpkins, and more. Visit thisistheplace.org for hours and information. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, sunny and warm again today. A low-pressure system brings clouds and south winds to Utah tomorrow, and we'll see rain on Sunday. Today's high 81, 82. Tomorrow only 65 on Sunday. And right now, we're at 75 degrees and sunny skies. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, our headlines over the last few days have included the gathering of Silicon Slope Summit at the Delta Center, brought together business leaders, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, tech experts of all kinds, gathering there in the Delta Center. There was one unique voice amongst all of those voices. Elder David A. Bednar of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, was part of that conversation. So what is a world religious leader doing at a summit about business and technology? What was his message? Well, let's get beyond the headlines. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
We are really thrilled to have joining us on the program today David A. Bednar, member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who just finished speaking at Silicon Slopes, and of course the Silicon Slopes Summit held at the Delta Center. And Elder Bednar, welcome to the program. It's great to have you back on again. And really have to start with the first question, and you even alluded to this on social media earlier in the day, and that is, what is a world religious leader doing at a big tech summit in Salt Lake City?
Well, I was honored to be invited to participate in the program, and we determined that rather than giving some kind of a presentation, I would be interviewed by Ryan Smith, and we had a very wide-ranging discussion about the church and technology and the future of technology in Utah, and a number of timely topics that was frankly very fun. I had a terrific time visiting with Ryan.
I bet you did. It's an interesting clash and collision of your world, your previous experience before becoming an apostle and church leader, your business experience, of course, and give us a little sense of the conversation with Ryan Smith, starting with that area that you mentioned in terms of the use of technology.
Well, I talked about the role of technology in the transition of Ricks College to BYU Idaho. We were, I think, on the cutting edge of incorporating online learning into the curriculum of what we did at the university. And then I talked about the role of technology, for example, in the church, dealing with the restrictions from COVID and the need we have as leaders of the church to communicate with people all over the world, and how technology enabled us to do that. So those are two of the examples of how we focused on technology.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that we have noted throughout the Silicon Slopes event was we refer to it as the bumpability factor, this community that has developed with the tech folks, entrepreneurial folks. As you look at that in terms of sense of community and relationships, you have done that both in your business experience before church service and as an apostle in creating community and creating connections, even some that go kind of across the bridges and into some really unique spaces.
Well, I gave two examples. As I travel all over the world, I find that people are much more similar than they are different. And I think President Nelson has been a remarkable leader in talking about the need for peacemaking and civility. And he's been a model of that. He's demonstrated it in his outreach to the Black community, to the LGBT community, and things that we've worked on that most people would say, well, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints couldn't possibly work with these communities and bring about results. But if you work and you listen, then you're able to accomplish things primarily because we're more similar than different. And if we listen long enough, we find those commonalities, and you can do some things that most people don't think can be done.
I think that's so instructive in terms of that difference between just peacekeeping and being a peacemaker and really building those bridges. And again, sometimes that takes you, as you mentioned, into listening different, listening better, staying curious. Give us some other perspective in terms of ways you see that playing out, both in the community and across faith traditions.
Well, I think, for example, I've had the opportunity to meet with rabbis and imams and leaders of many, many different faith traditions. And again, I don't mean to sound trite. We have different doctrine, but we are nonetheless all sons and daughters of God. And we have great commonality. And I find it to be quite, not only instructive, but quite exciting, very energizing to see how much we have in common in the areas where we can work together, whether that be in a business setting, whether that be in religious organizations. I think that's a universal truth that we can be greatly benefited by.
As you talk to those that were attending the Silicon Slopes event today, there's obviously a lot of energy there. You have that entrepreneurial spirit that's in full swing. People who are always looking at, hey, what's possible today? You're a possibility thinker in your approach to relationships, to community, to making a difference all over the world. What is it that you're looking out on the horizon for that gives you real hope and kind of that entrepreneurial excitement for what comes next?
For me, the key to that is helping people understand that education is a lot more than just going to school. I think it's possible for people to go to school, take tests, get good scores, and feel like they've accomplished something. But all that means is they've learned how to play the school game. education is a curiosity. It's a desire for discovery. And education is ultimately learning to love learning. That to me is very exciting. And all of the connections and all of the collaboration feeds into that love of learning. When we understand that we have things that are both different and in common, then that's an incredibly exciting opportunity to learn with and from other people. So I think that undergirds everything that we try to accomplish as we go forward.
Yeah, that's so important. I always say one of my great fears for the democracy is the loss of curiosity. When we can no longer say, well, I wonder why she thinks that's the best solution, or I wonder why he thinks that approach will solve that particular problem. And it seems to me that we've lost some of that, which goes into civility, which goes into that civic charity and compassion. How else are you seeing that play out, and what else do you think we should be doing different, starting in our homes, but then in our businesses and in the community?
There are no simple answers and there are no silver bullets. But I think a question with which we can often begin and don't is just, could you help me understand? People kind of stake out a position, and if your position isn't my position, then you are wrong. I think a great way to begin is to say, okay, we clearly don't agree on this. Can you help me understand how you see this? And then my responsibility is to be quiet long enough to listen to what they say and see if I can understand where they're coming from.
You are one who has always been quick to observe, and I know you watch trends and you look for things that are going on in society and families and internationally. You have such a unique perch and perspective when it comes to that. What's something that you're seeing or sensing, or something you wish we were talking more about or talking differently about in society today?
The thing that I yearn for is just a willingness to see beyond the immediate, to see what's right in front of my face, and the seeming urgency to get what I want right now. To the degree that we can defer some personal gratification and spend some time engaged in trying to learn with and from somebody else, another group of people, I think we need more of that. I think we live too much here and now, and I want this. And I don't think that produces much that has lasting value.
Yeah, I love that learning with and from and beyond the immediate. And Elder Bednar, we'll close out. As you prepared to go to Silicon Slopes, you said in your social media post earlier in the day that part of what you were excited about sharing was your perspective on your faith and how that played into your lived experience and how that might be a benefit to those that were in attendance today.
Yeah, one of the questions we talked about, Ryan asked me, what was the reason for choosing a career in academics? And I said, well, I've always been curious, but there are two basic approaches that I think complement each other. One is to have people change from the outside in. Much of what we learn, for example, in business management is how you use incentives and how you use other devices from the outside to entice people to behave in a certain way. But God works from the inside out. Anything that's from the outside in my judgment, tends to be temporary. But when our hearts change because of what we know about God and his influence in our life, that change from the inside out is far more enduring. That's very, I think, instructive. It takes both. From the inside out, it requires a connection with God, and from the outside in can be accomplished in a variety of ways.
Fabulous observations, insight, and inspiration as always. Elder David A. Bednar of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Elder Bednar, thank you so much for making time for us on a busy General Conference weekend.
Thank you so much.
And that was our interview with Elder David A. Bednar, a member of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I love all of the principles that he shared with a business, tech sector kind of crowd, and they all learned something because it was principles. And as Elder Bednar said, it's the principles that make the change from the inside out, and that's the only way to make the change that will actually last.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson.
If you need a break from it all, this weekend is General Conference.
When you've dealt with a lot and you need to recharge, this weekend is General Conference.
If things are difficult or life is going really well.
For all these times, a reminder, it's time for General Conference Weekend at 102.7 FM and streaming live on the app for KSL News Radio.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Hey guys, do you know what makes Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City different? You. Every Revive treatment and medication is personalized just for you. Revive has the experts that guys go to when their current treatment isn't working. They have a complicated medical condition, or they're just not happy with their daily performance. Since 2011, they've helped thousands of local men suffering with the symptoms of low T and ED. Their goal is simple, to get to the bottom of your issues and fix them. Your best performance requires more than generic ED medications or a low-dose testosterone booster at a low-ball price, like you find online. Revive medications are custom compounded, affordable, and guaranteed to resolve your issues. Stop dealing with the symptoms of low T or ED. Book your T-check and exam today. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit us at revivemenshealth.com.
Does your company offer health insurance to your employees? If so, how do you know if you're getting the best deal on employee benefits? Did you know that a benefit broker makes more money when you spend more? Brokers are not only incentivized to steer you to more expensive insurance plans, but the more quotes they get, the harder they have to work and the less money they make. My name is Keith with Magellan and Linden. We're a different kind of benefits broker that offers a best plan, best price guarantee. We get insurance quotes from every insurance company every year. It forces insurance companies to compete for your business and offer the best deal possible. Here's what you do. Visit shopmyplan.com. We'll get you free quotes with no strings attached. If you like what you see, let's work together, and you'll get the best plan at the best price. If your benefits broker isn't getting quotes from every insurance company every year, you're probably paying too much. So visit shopmyplan.com today to get the best deal on employee health insurance. Go to shopmyplan.com today.
Hey, Doug.
Yes, Kathy.
Tell folks about Window World Doors.
Oh, yeah, thanks. We do entry doors, back doors, sliding patio doors, and storm doors.
And I just love the amazing door styles and the colors.
That's right, completely stained or painted, professionally installed with hardware.
So call us today, 801-281-8111.
Or visit windowworldutah.com.
Window World, simply the best for less.
That's no baloney.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today. As always, I am Boyd Matheson. If you missed that last segment, we had just a fascinating conversation with Elder David A. Bednar, an apostle in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He gave some incredible remarks over at the Silicon Slopes Summit yesterday over at the Delta Center. And we're going to kind of stay with that conversation just a little bit longer. Of course, we are rolling into General Conference weekend. There's so many things going on, and we're really thrilled to have back in studio with us once again the executive editor of the Church News, Sarah Jane Weaver. And Sarah Jane, welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Boyd.
There are just so many things going on. We listened to Elder Bednar in our last segment, and people can go listen to the podcast of that when it posts a little later on today. But Elder Bednar talked about all of these things that the church is doing in terms of becoming more connected with people, the use of technology as a way to foster conversations, to build bridges. You've had a unique perch to watch that happen as well.
Yeah, there is so much going on in the world right now, and especially in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints going into General Conference. The proceedings are worldwide. People get them in their own language in real time, and I think everyone looks forward to this part of the year every 6 months.
Yeah, and so often here in the state of Utah, we sort of think of what's happening downtown, who's actually inside the building in the conference center, but the vast majority of the members of the Church of Jesus Christ are participating through technology, including one pretty special person when it comes to the church who will also be viewing by technology this year.
Yeah, well, yesterday, President Russell M. Nelson announced on his social media that he had fallen and injured his lower back. That he had strained the muscles in his back, and that he was taking a slow recovery and was going to be participating in conference remotely.
I love that. We also know Elder Holland will be participating remotely as well. And so that use of technology, and I sort of got the sense just in reading through President Nelson's post yesterday, he always, whether he's writing or whether he's speaking, there's always a sense of urgency. Like you always want to lean in and you feel like you got to walk a little bit faster. And that has surely been the cadence for President Nelson's time as president of the church, as well as just the whole cadence and pace of the church worldwide.
Well, I'm sure it is frustrating to President Nelson's doctors because while they've asked him to slow down, the work of the church is not slowing down, and he continues to lead it. He turned 99 on September 9th. And this is a very, very vibrant time. You know, Boyd, we were in Concepcion, Chile, when President Nelson gave a press conference there, and he said there's much more to come. And he used this phrase, eat your vitamin pills. and he was referencing to a time when the work of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would be hastened at a pace even more rapid than it was then. And we're seeing that time right now. Yeah. On September 17th, the church dedicated 3 temples in a single day. That's the first time that has ever happened. Those temples were in Brasilia, Brazil, in Moses Lake, Washington, and in Bentonville, Arkansas. Also that day, we had 2 apostles in Mexico City delivering addresses to all of Latin America. Those proceedings were mostly in Spanish. Yeah. And they were joined by President Camille Johnson, who was also there. And I remember after September 17th thinking, wow, things are going fast. We had 4 people out on the road this week from the Church News staff alone. And then just 2 days later, the church announced that it was sending more than $8 million to help in the humanitarian crisis in Sudan. And so it doesn't matter what area you look at, a lot is happening.
Yeah, the pace is absolutely extraordinary. You mentioned the humanitarian efforts, and the donation there for humanitarian work in Sudan was just one of many that we've seen even just in the last few months that really span the globe, from fires in Hawaii to other crises going on around the world. You get to see and watch all of that play out. Just give us some sense of the cadence of the giving and the leaning in on the humanitarian effort of the church.
Well, I thought it was beautiful that Elder Bednar just spoke about building bridges and connecting with people. The church has certainly done this as they reach out with compassion to people in need. And in the year, just last year, in 2022, the church gave over $1 billion to those in need. And that's just one segment of the work. I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about temples and temple building and temple renovation, because we always turn our thoughts there as we go into General Conference. And the church now has 315 temples that are dedicated, announced, or under construction. And President Nelson has personally announced 133 of those.
Wow, that is an extraordinary number. That is quickening the pace at a rapid fire rate. I always remember when we were actually with President Nelson, following him in where were we in? Somewhere really high altitude wasn't it Colombia?
Bolivia.
Bolivia. And I just remember
El Alto.
That's right. That's right. Everyone was kind of gasping for air as we got off the plane there, and to see President Nelson, who I know he was only 95 at the time, but to see him running up 2 flights of stairs because he didn't want anyone to have to wait for him, that kind of pace is just extraordinary, and it seems to continue in so many different other areas as the church continues to expand. I want you to give us just a really quick snapshot of kind of the behind the scenes going into a general conference. There's so much in terms of preparation, both from those who will speak. There's also a host of things going on in terms of church news coverage to actually get that all done in multiple languages. Give us a sense of that.
Well, I think President Nelson gave us a glimpse of what was coming at conference in his message on social media yesterday, because he said he was going to pre-record his talk. So you have this 99-year-old, very active, very vibrant prophet who has been injured and is still saying, I have a message for this church and I'm going to give it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send it to them. When I was in Washington, D.C. a year ago at the temple rededication, I asked President Nelson about being unable to travel during the COVID pandemic. And I said, this is the first time you've been out among the members after the pandemic. And he corrected me. He said, Sarah Jane, I never really left them. And he was referring again to this topic that we're talking about today, this ability to connect with technology. We hope that Church News plays a part in that as we provide a summary of every conference talk and some context about each of the conference themes, as well as reporting on new temples. And we do that in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And so we hope people will tune in as they participate in General Conference.
So important. And I do love the fact that President Nelson will be delivering a message, because he does have a message not only for the members of the Church of Jesus Christ, but also a message to the world. We've been reflecting a lot on his message from April Conference on becoming a peacemaker. And we'll actually have a whole special on that on Sunday. You also have a special coming up on Saturday after the evening session of conference. It will be one of your podcasts from the Church News, Faith, Family, and Football, a conversation with Bronco Mendenhall and, of course, Sherry Dew. Give us just a 30-second look at what is that going to be all about?
Well, I think one of the greatest stories of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is how faith influences the lives of the church's members. And Bronco Mendenhall is no exception to that. And he talks about how his faith played a role in his decision to walk away as head football coach at University of Virginia. And he talked a little bit about what's next. And I think that is an exciting thing to look for as we all see how conference will influence our own personal life and decisions.
Oh, fantastic. Again, that will air Saturday evening after the Saturday evening session of conference, 7:30 p.m. here on KSL News Radio. A quick look into the Church News podcast, Faith, Family, and Football, a conversation with Bronco Mendenhall and Sherry Dew. And we'll continue to have all of that because at KSL News Radio, of course, we do have you covered for your conference weekend. We'll talk a little bit about my special coming up at the end of the show. We'll take a quick break for bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour: Weber County residents will especially be feeling the sting of a government shutdown since the Internal Revenue Service is one of the area's largest employers. KSL News Radio's Britt Johnson has more.
President of the local chapter of the National Treasury Employees Union, Robert Lawrence, says last time it was a 35-day shutdown in 2019. That's a long time to go without a paycheck.
We're just frontline employees. We don't make a lot of money. Putting money away and having a really healthy savings is really not in the cards for a lot of us.
Lawrence says they've grown by thousands of employees since the last shutdown. The government has consolidated their IRS locations, so this will affect northern Utah more than other areas around the country. And these workers are incredibly nervous about going an extended period of time with no income. Britt Johnson, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News.
On this vote, the yeas are 198, the nays are 232. The bill is not passed.
The House has failed to advance its short-term spending bill to avert a government shutdown this weekend. There were 21 House conservatives who blocked a bill that would have funded the government through October 31st and included provisions for border security. That has failed to pass. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down at the close of trading 158 points today. The NASDAQ, though, maintained positive territory, 18 points to the good, and the S&P 500 was down 11 points. And our KSL weather will stay sunny through the rest of today, but then tomorrow the wind picks up. Sunday, we're looking for rain. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Go with your gut. Your dog's immune system is based in the gut. A diet lacking in nutrients can cause itching, scratching, and a weak immune system. However, there is a solution. DINOVITE, Dinovite.
It took a grand total of 2 weeks. The dog stopped itching, the hair stopped falling out.
Try Dinovite for free. Just pay shipping and handling. Learn more at dinovite.com/radio.
Happier, healthier with every bite. Over 1 million pets helped with Dinovite.
I'm Scott, the owner of Solid Fire Pits. When I began welding my custom-made fire pits for friends and family, I shared them on TikTok because I was just so proud of them. Check it out. That's beautiful. I posted every new fire pit design and more people kept ordering, from 26 states and counting. Then on my birthday, I had my best sales ever. Now how can the universe beat that?
Solid Fire Pits is just one of the 5 million U.S. businesses that rely on TikTok every day. TikTok sparks business.
Hey man, looking good. It's Stitch Fix. I'd like to thank my stylist for making me look so great. They always get my fit just right. They send clothes that work for me and my budget. They even found me my favorite pair of jeans. I'd like to thank Stitch Fix because let's get real, I couldn't make this style happen on my own. They just make everything so easy. So thank you, Stitch Fix. They just get me, and they'll get you too. Stitch Fix. Take your style quiz today at StitchFix.com.
At Fisher Investments, our clients know we have their backs.
How do your clients know that?
Because Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, the highest standard for a financial advisor. It means we're there for our clients and always put their interests first.
So wait, you do it because you have to?
No, we do it because it's the right thing to do. Our clients trust us with their retirement savings, and we know how important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them.
Get to know them how?
We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, health, family, and lifestyle so we can tailor their portfolio to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you are switching to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Made to Shine. Real stories from Shane Company customers.
I grew up in a small town near my grandma. I looked up to her in so many ways. Her creativity, her style. Sadly, she passed away before my wedding. At my rehearsal dinner, my mom surprised me with my grandmother's favorite amethyst ring from Shane Company. I wore it on the big day, and I felt like she was there with me.
Shine bright with hand-selected gemstones in every color of the rainbow. Shane Company, fine jewelry since 1929.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meeks.
Well, we have all earlier accidents cleared off the Valley freeways, but we do have slowdowns setting in. It is heavy and slow southbound I-15 Riverdale Road down to Roy and southbound I-15 in Salt Lake County between 5300 and 7200 South. Transform your outdated kitchen with half-priced granite for $2,500. Granite quartz, cabinets, and flooring. Visit halfpricegranite.com. Affordable luxury. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, sunny and warm again today, but the low-pressure system is bringing clouds and south winds into Utah for tomorrow, and we'll see rain on Sunday. Today's high 81, tomorrow 82, only 65 on Sunday. And right now we're at 75 degrees with sunny skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Pleased to have joining us on the program Derek Miller, President and CEO of the Salt Lake Chamber and Downtown Alliance. Of course, the Chamber is the state's largest and longest-serving business association, really the voice of business. You hear that often here on KSL News Radio. And Derek, we know you've just taken a trip back to Washington, D.C. A lot of things on the agenda in terms of the Chamber, but let's start in the middle of where we are today, and that is dealing with the government shutdown. What were your conversations like back there? What's the business community message to the members of Congress?
Well, thank you, Boyd, for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure, and this is our last day here in Washington, D.C. It's been a busy week. We've talked with our congressional delegation about a number of issues, but of course, as you indicated, top of mind for them and for the business community, and frankly, for all of us in Utah, is this looming government shutdown starting Sunday. First business day, of course, Monday, October 1st and 2nd. It looks like, based on what we're hearing from our congressional delegation, that there will be a shutdown, and now they're just talking about how long it will be. And, of course, from the business community standpoint, we don't want the shutdown, and if there has to be one, we want it to be the minimum amount of time because it has real impacts on real people. And the last time we shut down the government, it had a estimated $5 billion impact on the nation's economy. And my gosh, we're just coming out of the pandemic and getting the engines roaring again, and this is really the last thing that we need for a nascent economy.
Yeah, no question about that, and we do often frame that, and with your background as well, Derek, you know the drill in terms of the government shutdown. The mandatory spending rolls on as things open back up. There's kind of that backlog there, but the conversation that you're never hearing on any of the cable news or the national outlets is that impact right down to that small business owner and that kind of impact. Just give us some framing from the Chamber's perspective in terms of what does that trickle-down impact really look like?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I mean, let's just go quickly around the state. You think about our rural communities that rely so much on our wonderful national parks, and we know that Governor Cox has a plan to keep the parks open, but it's a plan. It's not a guarantee. And I worked in the Herbert administration last time this happened, and we were able to work with the Secretary of the Interior to keep the parks open. But I can tell you, as someone who was on the front lines the last time that happened, it's not easy to do, and you have to have a lot of moving parts moving in the right direction. So there's a potential risk there. And then you think about our friends out in the basin who rely on an energy economy and permitting stops. A lot of that energy work is done on public lands, and suddenly you're not getting permitting done in a timely basis. And then think about along the Wasatch Front. This has impacts to international business. It has impacts to our very strong healthcare economy when you're not getting clinical trials taken care of. And it has, frankly, an impact on everyday people who are suddenly now experiencing delays at airports and getting their passports and things like that. So that $5 billion adds up fast.
Yeah, no question about that. I know this has been a really full week for you and the Chamber there back in our nation's capital, beyond everything impacting as it relates to government funding. You've also been really zeroed in and such an important voice in this whole space of immigration in particular, because it does impact us here in the state. There are some real practical, tactical solutions that seem to be just right there if we can set the politics aside. Give us a sense of those conversations. What are you looking at? What are some of the areas where, hey, if we could just narrow and laser target this area, we could make a change, and that could impact Utah businesses, Utah families?
Well, when you think about immigration, you don't have to think too long about the moral or the human imperative of it. We certainly have a humanitarian crisis on our southern border, which is hard to see. But in addition to the humanitarian imperative, there's also an economic imperative, especially in a place like Utah, where our economy is so strong and we are growing jobs so quickly. And even though we are the fastest growing state in population, we're still not keeping up population-wise with the jobs that need to be filled. And as we sit and talk here today, right now, there are about 100,000 jobs in Utah that are not being filled because we do not have enough people. Our unemployment rate is dangerously low at 2.5%, well below what most economists would tell you is full employment at 3.5%. And there's not many businesses that I talk to that don't tell me that finding people is their number one challenge. And then when you add to that, I hear all the time, Boyd, where did all the 20-year-olds go? Why can I not find people to hire? And the truth is they didn't go anywhere. They never existed. They were never born. We have a declining, even in a state like Utah, declining population growth because we have a declining birth rate. And so there's only one place that those employees are going to come from, and that is from other countries. And when we talk about immigration, often people say it's broken. Well, it's worse than that, Boyd. It's not just broken. It's upside down and it's backwards. Because on one hand, we do not have a secure border to keep bad actors out. And on the other hand, we do not have a functioning legal immigration system to let good actors in. So you asked the question, and the question is, well, where can we get started? And we certainly support Governor Cox and other governors around the country who are asking for more leeway for states to have work permits based on the needs of the economy in those states. And that's something we've been talking with the members of the delegation about.
Fantastic. Give us just a quick peek into this area of permitting, often something that really inhibits businesses. But just give us a quick hit in terms of that permitting reform. What needs to happen there?
Well, you, as your listeners know, you spent time in Washington, D.C., and so you understand the bureaucracy that often is not just bloated but doesn't work. And so when we talk about cost of doing business, it's not just tax rates, but it's also that hidden tax in the regulatory burden. I know that was something that you focused on a lot during your time in Washington, D.C. And so what we really want to do is take an outdated permitting regulatory system of Washington, D.C., and do what we did in Utah, which was to do regulatory reform. We counted up every single regulation in Utah that impacted business. There were 1,973, and I bet that you could add a few zeros onto that when you talk about Washington, D.C.
No question.
We also found out of that almost 2,000 regulations, there were about 400 that had no purpose. No one could even remember why they existed. And we need to do something like that in Washington, D.C. It will certainly help small businesses. It's probably the easiest thing that we could do to get our national economy really humming again. And that's, again, what we're talking about with our congressional delegation from Utah, which I have to say, by the way, Boyd, they are stellar. I mean, we have members of Congress, our 2 U.S. senators, our 4 members of the House who really listen to Utahns. And so if there are any of your listeners out there who've got a specific issue, I'd urge them to reach out to their congressional representative because they really do care and they really do listen. And we've found that as we've been here the past week.
Oh, fantastic. Great stuff. And I know this was just the tip of the iceberg. I know you talked about grid resiliency, market freedom. You talked about the airport, EPA regulation, Colorado River Compact, and a host of other things. And we'll continue to track those as you get back to the state after a big week in Washington, D.C. for the Salt Lake Chamber. Derek Miller, of course, always happy to have you on the show and appreciate the insight, perspective, and a great report, some great work in a week that has been mired in other problems, but ones that you're really raising for the Utah front that's really critical. Thanks for your voice and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Boyd. Have a terrific day.
We'll step aside for one last break. When we come up, some final thoughts as well as a preview of my General Conference special here on KSL News Radio, The Quest for Peace, coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
At Fisher Investments, our clients know we have their backs.
How do your clients know that?
Because Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, the highest standard for a financial advisor. It means we're there for our clients and always put their interests first.
So wait, You do it because you have to?
No, we do it because it's the right thing to do. Our clients trust us with their retirement savings, and we know how important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them.
Get to know them how?
We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, health, family, and lifestyle so we can tailor their portfolio to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you are switching to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
I'm a big believer in investing into what the wealthiest people in the world invest into. But it's not easy to know exactly what that is, and it hasn't always been possible for regular folks like you and I. But that's changing. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and if you've done a good job acquiring some assets, now is the time to consider private equity. Private equity is ownership of private companies that aren't traded on the stock market and in most cases are very exclusive. Examples could include ownership of apartments or nursing homes, dental practices, solar farms, you name it. Why do so many billionaires invest into private equity? Because of historically low correlation to the stock market and historically higher returns. If you have a goal with your portfolio but aren't there yet, call Trajan Wealth today. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. May require accreditation.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
You wash your hands, you brush your teeth, but how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, and germs. And it's why cleaning your nose, the body's air filter, is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less, but the biggest payoff is improved health. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E. Clean nose, healthy life.
Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa this weekend only, today through Sunday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, noon to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, President Biden will be in Washington through the weekend, hoping to help Congress avoid a shutdown of the federal government when its spending authority expires on Saturday night. Second, thousands of federal employees who work at the Internal Revenue Service Center in Ogden are worried about what will happen to their paychecks if there's a government shutdown. Third, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints says it's making progress on a new hymn book with plans to release the finished product in 2026. Right now, 74 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It is great to be with you today, as always. I am Boyd Matheson. As we round out the program today, if you missed any of the segments, we covered so much ground today, from the passing of Dianne Feinstein, her unique relationship with Senator Mike Lee. You're going to want to go listen to that podcast, kslpodcast.com. We also had Elder David A. Bednar from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints Quorum of the 12 Apostles, talking about his conversation yesterday at Silicon Slopes, a really interesting combination of a world religious leader and tech and thought leaders, entrepreneurs engaged in a really meaningful conversation, and you'll want to listen to that as well. Sarah Jane Weaver from the Church News, the executive editor, joined us for a little bit of a preview and sort of the pace of where the Church of Jesus Christ actually is. And the fact that President Russell M. Nelson, who announced yesterday that he wouldn't be attending conference in person, he would be participating as the vast majority of members of the church do. He's going to be doing it through technology, including delivering his own message to the church and to the world through technology during the weekend's conference. Of course, KSL News Radio has you covered. All things General Conference, so keep it tuned right here over the weekend. And we have a lot of special programming for you coming up here on KSL News Radio as part of our conference coverage, including just a wide variety of specials from some of our great colleagues here. And one that I want to focus on is one I actually got to do myself, and it's called The Quest for Peace. It will air on Sunday at noon here on KSL News Radio, so after the morning session of General Conference. And I chose to focus on this idea of the quest for peace. During his landmark address in April General Conference, President Russell M. Nelson really invited not just the members of the church, but the people of the world to become peacemakers.
The Savior's message is clear. His true disciples build, lift, encourage, persuade, and inspire, no matter how difficult the situation. True disciples of Jesus Christ are peacemakers.
I love that framing and the way President Nelson laid that out, again, both for members of the church and for everyone else, people of faith and people of no faith, of how we can actually become peacemakers. I've spent much of the last 6 months really reflecting on what President Nelson shared in terms of becoming a peacemaker. Peacekeeping is not enough. You have to be a peacemaker. And so in our special that will air Sunday at noon on KSL News Radio, I talked to a wide range of individuals who understand what the peacemaking process and becoming a peacemaker process is all about. I had a conversation recently with Ambassador Ronald Newman, who served as the U.S. Ambassador to Afghanistan and a number of other places. We talked about peacemaking and diplomacy. That this diplomacy, peacemaking, is often thought of as a passive exercise of just pretending to be nice. But Ambassador Newman described it very different.
Diplomacy is not just about making nice. It's not about being mealy-mouthed. It is about finding ways to deliver the message that don't insult or injure the person you're talking to so that they won't talk to you again. Now, compromise is not a dirty word, but it's also a question of what's the bottom line for us.
I love that Ambassador Newman said, look, this is not about just niceties. This is not about just kumbaya. It's also not about being passive. It's not about having people walk all over you. It's leaning in to a different kind of conversation and building relationships so that you can have the better conversation. One of my favorite conversations in this quest for peace was actually with Bishop Phyllis Spiegel from the Episcopal Diocese of Utah, and she described how this peacemaking process begins from a most interesting position that I'd never considered before. This idea of peacemaking and becoming a peacemaker actually starts with the principle of hospitality.
Hospitality, I think the first thing that is primary is to see the other person, right? How are you hospitable to someone if you don't see them and not presume what they might need, but to actually say, is there anything I can offer to you? It's as simple. We were talking as a staff yesterday that whenever you see somebody sitting in a chair, in the lobby area, if they don't have tea or coffee in front of them, any staff member, not the hospitality staff, but any staff member, what does that look like? And then we got into this great conversation about, because the next thing you're going to realize is that person sitting there probably has a really great story in their life, or what they're doing there that day, or what hopes, what's going on in their life. And so hospitality, just that offering of, hey, can I hold that door for you? That moment to connect with somebody then can lead to deeper relationship.
I love the way Bishop Spiegel from the Episcopal Diocese of Utah approaches all of that. She's a peacemaker because she is hospitable. I had never connected the dots on that until my conversation with Bishop Spiegel. And I love the way she actually lives this, how she lives it with her staff. And this whole idea that if you are hospitable, that you create space, you widen the welcome. And she described how in widening the welcome, you actually create space for someone to share their story. And when they share their story, it will actually change you, the listener. And so just a really interesting part of that whole conversation. I talked to a wide range of individuals. Eboo Patel, who, of course, is an impact scholar up at the University of Utah. He talks about and shares in our special, which will air on Sunday at noon, this idea of shared service is also part of how we overcome division and how we actually build those bridges of peace. Eboo talked about how if you are working to help somebody, if you're serving at the local homeless shelter or food kitchen, you're not asking who they voted for in the last presidential election. You're focused on other individuals and how can you lift, how can you serve. And so the entire special, it's an entire hour of conversations, wide range of folks weighing in on this quest for peace and how we actually do that just a little bit differently. I also had the opportunity to interview Camille Ann Johnson, General Relief Society president for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and she called on the women of the world to stand with conviction while also avoiding contention.
I wish our sisters were paying attention to what President Nelson was saying.
Yeah.
And if we would listen to him and if we would follow his counsel, he knows what we need. He knows what we need in anticipation of this upcoming political season. And so he counseled with us in April to be peacemakers. And, I remember when he said, if there's anything virtuous, lovely, of good report, or praiseworthy, you should say that. And if you can't think of anything to say that falls in that category, he didn't say it quite this way, but keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
It's harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
And as we try to express our beliefs, which are important, we have an obligation to speak up and speak out. As women of the church, that's something that we've been asked to do.
Yeah.
But to do it in a way that doesn't invite contention, but must be given with our conviction, is something I'm certainly working at. It's something we can all work at. And I'm so happy to have received that prophetic direction and that prophetic invitation to do better at that.
Avoiding contention, speaking with conviction. Great words from Camille Ann Johnson, General Relief Society president. So that gives you a sneak preview of what we will talk about on Sunday noon right here on KSL News Radio, our conference weekend special, The Quest for Peace. Well, that wraps it up for us here on Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. I am Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us today. And as always, as you go out into the world, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen at home on any smart speaker and in your car at 102.7 FM. This is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon, 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Jeff Kaplan. We have sunshine, 82 degrees. KSL's top story. Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes says he won't be endorsing any candidate in the race for Mitt Romney's Senate seat. He's also talking about the sexual misconduct allegations against Operation Underground Railroad founder Tim Ballard. We have multiple reporters working on the story today. Team coverage begins with KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe. Amy?
Reyes posted his thoughts on X, formerly Twitter, this morning. Tim Ballard is accused of coercing women into acts including showering with them and sharing a bed under a tactic he calls the couple's ruse to rescue trafficked children. But Reyes says He's never seen or experienced anything improper or illegal while interacting with Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad. Reyes says he will not comment on accusations because he did not witness the alleged misconduct. Ballard has denied all the claims of wrongdoing. Reyes also says the women coming forward need to be heard to make sure all credible evidence gets presented. Reporting live, Amy Kobabe, KSL News Radio.
Thanks, Amy. Tim Ballard went on a video podcast to respond to the sexual misconduct allegations against him. KSL News Radio's Lindsay Aerts has that part of the story.
Ballard went on the Adam Carolla podcast on Wednesday where he admits he showered with women but disputes that it was naked or that he touched them. Ballard claimed there are a total of 5 or 6 female operators who would pose as a wife, all of whom he says he's been in contact with.
If there's 5 or 8 and you've spoken to them and they're not making the allegation, then who are these women who are making the allegations?
That's the question that we need an answer to.
He also made public a photo of himself in his underwear covered in what he says are henna tattoos. It's alleged he sent that to a woman. He says the tattoo artist took the photo.
So she took a picture while I'm asleep. It wasn't sexy. It wasn't anything. It was just to take a picture, and then she sent it to a couple people and said, hey, keep this archived so that when Tim goes back into this case, I can redesign it.
Ballard claims these women were acting under the couple's ruse, a cover for why operators can't engage in sex acts with children. Lindsay Aerts, KSL News Radio.
A retired FBI agent who spent 20 years working undercover says that there are strict rules about these types of investigations and that the one described by Tim Ballard doesn't meet the guidelines. KSL News Radio's Hugo Ricard-Bell continues our team coverage. Hugo?
Jeff, Greg Rogers has made a career infiltrating child sex trafficking rings and shutting them down across Southeast Asia.
The couple's ruse is something I've never heard of, never encountered in these types of cases.
He says when team or couple dynamics are used for undercover operations, there is strict protocol.
For instance, I worked a lot of outlaw motorcycle gangs. When you're working outlaw motorcycle gangs, it's very common to have a girlfriend with you on the back of your bike. In those cases, though, that girlfriend is a seasoned, experienced undercover who knows how to work. You don't just take somebody.
There is no indication that the women making allegations of misconduct against Tim Ballard had operational training. Reporting live, Hugo Ricard-Bell, KSL News Radio.
Thanks, Hugo. KSL News Time 3:04. We have breaking news at KSL News Radio. South Kearns Elementary School students aren't allowed to walk home this afternoon. They're being released to parents only as the parents arrive after some children reported hearing shots fired near the school. A spokesperson with the Granite School District says Unified Police have been called to investigate an incident that's about 2 blocks away from South Kearns Elementary School. We'll continue to watch the story for you here at KSL News Radio. The White House is warning about the ramifications of this impending government shutdown. Maria Chaleos is live at the KSL National News Desk.
Jeff, Budget Director Shalonda Young today outlining the impacts of a government closure.
More than 2 million service members wouldn't get their paycheck. Long-term disaster recovery would be further delayed. Nutrition assistance for nearly 7 million women and children who rely on WIC would be jeopardized. Small businesses would lose out on more than $100 million a day in loans.
But mail delivery and Social Security payments will continue. Former Senator Barbara Boxer remembering her friend and history-making Senator Dianne Feinstein, who died today at the age of 90. Boxer says she and Feinstein didn't always see eye to eye, but they were both dedicated to the